I think lean into what scares you and do it. And I think that if you're not like uncomfortable, you're not growing. And so anything that's guiding you in those ways, go for it.
Hi, Coach Mike Ricci here from D3 Multisport. Today on our Trust the Process podcast, we're talking with Kalee Tyson, who just competed at the Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. Kalee qualified for Kona for the first time this year at Ironman Coeur d'Alene. Kalee's coach is Brad Sang. She balances her training while being the mother of a 2-year-old. She has a demanding job and a super supportive husband, Isaac, who is also an Ironman athlete. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let's get to our conversation with Kalee. Hi, Coach Mike Ricci here from D3 Multisport with longtime D3 athlete Kalee Tyson, who's fresh off her finish at Ironman Kona. You can see the joy in her face, and happy to have you here, Kalee. And how are you doing?
Thank you. I am doing great. I wish I were still in Hawaii,
I'm sure.
but I am still on cloud nine.
Awesome. You've had quite the run, I would say, with Worlds in Finland. You got a toddler. That's, a whole new experience.
Yes, this was a peak year, I think. I don't know if anything will ever beat this year. But yes.
And I was going to add a super, super supportive husband, Isaac, who is doing anything to help you reach your goals, which is awesome, right?
Yes, this was my year. He and I were alternating focus years. And so
I like that.
All about me. Next year, he gets to do a full, so all about him. But I still have a busy year next year. So
awesome. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the day in Kona. Like, what was it like? And, or the week leading into it, how, that experience is just, so much fun.
Yeah. The week leading into Kona was awesome. I went in with the expectation I wanted to enjoy the whole experience. I didn't plan to win. Shocking, I know. Didn't think I would win my age group. So I wanted to soak it up, enjoy the week, have fun, still set myself up for a good race, but not get too crazy deep into, the Ironman prep leading in. The Iron Kids race with my fresh 2-year-old was the greatest. I mean, my race was here, but that was super close here. She took it super seriously. It was so cute. I died. That was the hottest actually I felt the whole trip was that Iron Kids race.
Was it 9 o'clock in the morning? And
no, it was at 4 p.m.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just
peak
humid. Yeah. And down on Elite E, it was just sweltering, and she was bright red, but it was so great. And the underpants run was so fun.
Yeah,
the practice swim was so fun.
Yeah.
Lots of acai bowls, lots of poke.
Awesome.
Yeah. The week leading in was awesome.
That's awesome.
The actual race, I'll try not to go on and on and on and on because
that's fine. That's fine.
There's just so much to talk about. But I think going in, we had good expectations set. Brad and I knew I wanted to enjoy the day, not let the heat get to me, and then just set myself up for a good solid day. I didn't have time expectations. During the week, somebody told me to expect 60 to 90 minutes slower in Kona. And I was like, oh God, okay. 13 hours, that's a long day. How am I going to fuel for that? I even added a bottle at the last minute. I was like, add an extra bottle. Just get prepped. Don't have expectations. Enjoy the day. So started with the swim. It was awesome. The swim was great. So low key.
You had a great swim. Yeah,
the practice swim was a little bit slower. And so I went in okay, if I beat the practice swim, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And
was there a current during the practice swim?
I have maybe. Let's pretend.
Okay.
But it was more, there was no sighting buoys on the way back.
Oh.
So I would pop up and I would just see ocean. And I'd be like, where are the people? I'll keep going this way. But the actual swim was awesome. I found great feet. I was swimming next to one of my friends I found out later. And so that was super cool. And no sharks. That was great. But yeah, just low key swim. I was like, this is the only time I won't feel hot today.
Right.
Enjoy this. Savor this. And hypothetically, swimming's my probably strongest sport of the three.
Sure.
Yeah. And I try the least in it, to be clear. So got out the water, super happy, hosed down. I took time in transition, and I was glad. I put sunscreen everywhere, got everything super set up, and started the bike. Any questions about the swim?
Yeah. So did you, What was I going to ask you? So you sunscreened up, you
Hard.
hosed off, sunscreened up, socks on the bike?
Socks on the bike, yes.
Socks on the bike, okay.
Yep. That's
always one of my favorite questions.
I've never ridden without socks.
Oh, okay.
Because I train primarily on the trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's too sweaty and it's too gross. And I need the socks to absorb.
Makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. So I started the bike and.
So long run through transition though, right? I mean, that's a long run.
I didn't put my shoes on until I got to the bike. So I carried them. Yeah. I'm not one of those on the bike shoe people. Right. So I just ran and there's so many volunteers. Yeah. And they're cheering you on and they're like, great swim, great job. And I was by a couple friends out of the swim. So I got to kind of see them go to their bike too.
Yeah. That's fun. Yeah. So you hit the bike, you go up the first hill, you go the out and back in town, right? And then which was Palani.
Speedy, but I just tried to take it easy because it was still pretty spread out. We were the first age group to go, which I think made a huge difference in the day. Like I had, I think, a lot more space than people did. I wasn't ever crowded anywhere.
Oh, that's good.
That was super nice. And I was behind a girl that I know is like a top 10 Kona kind of gal.
Yeah.
And she was taking it pretty easy that first bike. So I was like, okay, chill out, cruise.
Learn from others for sure.
Yes. Get the cheers. Let people take videos, shoot them some. In a lot of my pictures, you can see me on my bike with.
Oh, you're like so happy in all your pictures. I'm like, wow, she was having fun.
Well, theme of the day was that. Yeah. But then hit the Queen K, and I kind of broke it up in my brain because it's so long, and I thought it could be much longer. So it was the town miles, Queen K, part 1. That was easy. I'd ridden some of that already. I'd actually gotten a flat on that in the week leading in. And so I was like prepared for all things. And that just kind of flew by. I hit the climb to Hawaii, and that was where I didn't really know. I had thought I would ride or drive the course, and then it just didn't play out that week with Chloe, my toddler there, and all of the fun. No one seemed to think that part would be fun, driving the course. So I was like, fine.
Yeah.
So I started the 18-mile climb, and there were certainly challenging parts of it, but we have a lot of hills out here. And even though I don't ride outside a lot, I posted this on social media before the race. I have some weird belief that I'm a great climber.
Yeah.
Even though I don't ride outside often. And so the climbs were easy, I thought. Nothing was super challenging. And some of it was a little bit long, but, and hot. But I was hosing down bottles. I tried to keep my core temp cool because that was one of my biggest concerns, and just chug up.
Do you typically do well in the heat, or is that sometimes a struggle?
I've only really raced in the heat in Cabo. It doesn't get super hot. I'm from Seattle. I guess I should have said that earlier on, but it doesn't get super hot out here. So I don't know. I've had races where I cramp really badly, and I cramped in Finland really badly.
Like calves or quads or?
Oh my gosh. Finland was a whole leg cramp top to bottom.
Wow.
Well, in hindsight, I didn't take any salt. I don't think I had, because it wasn't supposed to be hot. It was kind of cold out there leading into the race. And I should have been thinking, oh, I'm racing. I should,
Even when it's cold, you're still losing fluids to stay warm, and electrolytes too. So that's kind of a myth that people don't always think about. Yeah. It's hard.
Since Finland, I switched my nutrition, and it played out really well in Kona. And I think that helped a lot.
So what was the change?
I went from Tailwind and just adding Noon into my bottles to Precision Hydration, Precision Fuel. And I used just the kind of standard one they have, like the 60 carb, 1,000 milligrams of salt. And I just go a little bit higher than that.
So it was like a pH 1000 or pH 1500 or something? Yeah. You preloaded.
I did. And I've never done that before. I had a little packet of the 1500 before the race. The night before the race. During the day before the race, we were just, my best friend was also racing Kona. And she and I were just popping those tabs of the Precision Hydration. So just salted to the max.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. But got to the turnaround in Hawaii, and Brad had told me to freeze my bottles. So I froze 2 bottles, and then I had another bottle to refill my, torpedo on the front.
Yeah.
My torpedo bottle was on fire. Like, it was hot as I picked it up, and I was like, oh God. So, and it tasted sour. It was terrible. So I go to grab my 2 frozen bottles, and he was like, oh, you're going to enjoy those frozen bottles. You'll thank me for that. They hadn't fully frozen the night before, and they were absolutely hot by the time I got them. So they were no relief whatsoever, but in
Right.
my head, I was like, fine. And I had the little power bar chews to refill in my bike. I like to add just a couple more calories.
Mm-hmm.
And they had totally melted together into one solid, I'll call it like a taffy chunk. I pulled it out and it just strung out.
Yeah.
Panic shoved those and then took off back down. And it was super fast leaving Javi. Like it was so fast and it wasn't super windy, which I'm
no
sure
crosswinds really.
A little bit of a breeze, but it was definitely worse during the week where I had moments that I was like,
you're not letting go of the bars.
Right. And it was a little bit like that, but not what I assume is like the worst possible conditions.
Normal, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the rest of the ride was pretty seamless. My feet pads were on fire most of the ride.
Did you take your feet out or keep them in?
I kept them in, but I just tried to pedal differently.
Yeah. Like take the pressure off the middle of your foot. Yeah. I've had that. I've actually taken my feet out during the race just to give them a break and then put them.
It's just so smart. I didn't even think of that.
It gets hot though. I mean, it gets so hot.
Yeah. It was a distraction for sure, but it was like, well, as long as they don't hurt on the run, I'll be fine. Right. And they didn't. So kept flying. Brad had said that some people think the race starts at mile 85 of the bike. Mm-hmm. And so that was my benchmark of like, get there, feel good. And I did, and I could still sometimes push my watts. I'll say I didn't hit my target at all. So if you look at my data, it's like not what it should have been, but effort-wise, it felt really good, really strong. And just, I mean, it was really an uneventful bike, which I was super thankful for.
Did you guys you and Brad, did you choose like a number to say 70% of FTP or 72%, or you knew a range?
Range. Okay. I'm sure it's a percentage that he's setting, but my Ironman watts were, I don't know if it matters sharing them or not, but they were between like 145 and 160.
Yeah.
And the first half of the bike, the goal was to do the lower end of that range. And then if I still felt good, the second half pushed the upper end. Yep. And I never even hit that lower number. Oh, as soon as I felt the heat, I was like, oh, I was pushing the legs and I was like, I don't know if these watts are hitting today. And the thing we had like emailed about was like, kind of let go of expectation, see how you're feeling and go based off that. And so I was like, for once, I think I'll just kind of focus on biking easy. I think I've always overbiked in Ironman events. So I just let it go. I wasn't too stressed about it. The legs felt good. They felt solid. And my bike time was great.
You had a great time.
Yeah. Although I'll say I estimated between 6 hours and 6 hours and 10 minutes. And I did 6 hours and 7 seconds. And I was like, 7 seconds.
So where are those, 67 seconds, 7 seconds?
1,000 places, right? Like so many places, not stringing all of that taffy into my mouth, not slowing down for extra water, but in the end, it was worth it. Totally. A few minutes on the bike or a few seconds on the bike in comparison to how my marathon turned out, like worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm just watching it here and watching the long run through transition. It's like a half a mile. I mean, you get off your bike and you're just running all the way around. And you're obviously in your socks by that point. Your shoes are still on the bike probably.
I didn't do that. No, I
ran in your bike shoes.
I took off the bike shoes, but I didn't leave them on my bike.
Oh, so you
just ran holding them. Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to run in these.
And then you got all your stuff and it was a chaotic in transition with a lot of people in there.
So many people.
Yeah.
But I took the transitions pretty slow. In hindsight, I just kind of didn't think I would have a crazy great time. And so I wasn't worried about that. And I was like, sunscreen, get all of the things I need and like get in a headspace to go in a good place. And my girl in T2 was super helpful, put all my stuff on me, helped lather sunscreen, dried me off. And
those are the best volunteers. Those are the best.
And she was so sweet. She was like a young girl. And I was like, how's your day going?
Right.
And she was like, oh, I'm waiting for my mom. She's going to be off the bike soon. And I was
that's so cool.
I love that.
Right.
So I was like, thanks for volunteering, And so she was great energy. And I changed my socks and I put fresh socks on for the run, which I've never done before. And I'm very glad I did.
I was going to ask you that. Okay, good.
My socks were so disgusting getting off that bike because it was just water. And I do pee on my bike.
Yeah.
So I peed in my shoes and you just want to be clean. You feel so dirty.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
disinfect the shoes after the race and the whole
Isaac
thing,
did all the things. Yeah. He takes his Sherpa duties his responsibilities very seriously. And they were just the bike. Oh, and the bike was so gross. Just all the salt, all of the sugar too.
Stuck on there.
Yeah.
So you head out into transition, you go up the little hills, you go along the first little section and then back down to Leahy Drive, and
And that was
all the
so
people
fun.
there waiting for you, and it's hot and
And
energy and
all my friends, I saw most of my friends on that Elite out and back,
that's awesome.
and they were all close to each other, and it was just so fun cheering, and you were just so distracted the whole time. But I felt so good, and I kept looking down at my watch, and I was like, this is too fast. Like, slow it down, slow it down, slow it down. You're not going to feel this good later, you know?
Right.
And so I just soaked it in, enjoyed it. I had some girls flying by me. I feed a lot off of like cheering people on because it like made me happier.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I could just be like, yeah, great, go get them, great pace.
And were you targeting a pace, a heart rate, RPE?
My like goal pace was 9:15 to 9:45 for the marathon. I've never ever had a good Ironman marathon. I've always fallen apart, whether it's like cramping or walking or feeling out of control. And so I was like, let's actually like do that. Take the first 5K easy. It's going to be really hot. It's going to be a sufferfest. Everyone says you break in the energy lab. Like, let's just go. I think one of my friends had said, go slow or slow down to go fast. So I was like, okay, slow down, and did that. And every aid station I hit, I did some amount of walking, whether it was a little or a lot. And I had like 5 tasks, and it was ice in my ice sock, which like D3 needs a ice sock branded. I learned this from D3, and it has changed my races. Like Oregon, I never felt hot.
Does it go around your neck?
No, I hold it in my hand. I hold it in my hand, and I just pat.
Well, we'll look into that then. We'll look into that.
Get the inner elbows. And so I would fill my eye sock. I would fill my flask. I ran with a flask because mentally I like to have control of water and intake, and it stresses me out waiting for the next aid station. Although I didn't realize how many aid stations there really were. Like they're constantly on
There's a lot.
course.
Yeah.
So I didn't totally need that, but it was good. It was fine. Ice down the front, ice down the back, salt pills, Morton's.
Cool. Yeah. And then, so you run down to Leahy, a lot of people obviously in the way back, you know, and you got the rollers, and you're starting to say, do my legs feel good? Do my legs feel bad? And you know, you're probably still feeling good. Then you climb up to the bottom of Palani, right? Loaded with people. And then you know, people cheering. And how did you feel going up Palani?
I felt really good. And I was like, okay, it's going to get really lonely, and it's going to start getting really hard and really hot. And I never felt too hot. I think the ice sock was the reason. But it was time to like zone in, right? You're like, okay, that was fun. Saw all my friends. We're all cheering. And then it's like you get in the brain, get in the zone, foot. And I just like was so focused on each aid station and each task and doing the math of Morton at this time, salt at this time, which there was no timing on salt. It was when I felt like it. But like, okay, take a salt in 2 miles. And the miles just ticked by. And I was like, okay, hit the half. Okay, now it's the energy lab. And I was like, okay, this is the moment. It's make or break here, the energy lab. And I just never had a break moment. It was just, I kept the same pace. I felt totally in control. I was never breathing hard. It was totally sustainable. My legs were strong. My brain was strong. And the energy lab was awesome. I saw people struggling.
Yeah, for
sure. And people throwing up, people walking, people crying. I mean, it was it must have been very intense for a lot of people, but it like fueled me because I felt so good, which is horrible to say. But I was like, dude, I'm really not feeling bad. Like I still feel really good, but this is going to get hard. It's going to get hard. So did the little out and back, and it was so great. There's music out near the turnaround, got special needs in the energy lab, and all I needed was more salt pills. And I just kept feeling good and seeing my friends, and all of my friends had great races too. And like my handful of friends that I'm close with, and climbed out of the energy lab, and I was like, oh my God, I still feel good. This is insane. What is this? And I was like, you can still cramp, chill out, take your salt, take your Morton. And then the Queen K part's so long. I didn't really realize how long I should do more research. This season is the most prepared I've ever been for courses. Usually I just go in blind and I wing it. And for Finland, we were super prepared, and like I knew the course, and Brad and I had like, you know, trained a lot for specific things. And then in Kona, we were also very trained and prepared, but I just didn't realize how long that section was. And so you're just rolling out there, and
that's a key part of the race, right? So you come to the top of Palani, you take your left, and then you get past all the people, and then it's you in the aid station. Of course, there's runners out there, but you're just kind of out there by yourself with your thoughts, and it's you're like, where is the turn, right? And then you get there, and you're only at like mile 10 or something, and you're like, holy cow.
It's
like, this is a long way to go.
It was so long.
Yeah.
And I, in my head, had thought I'd heard that the energy lab was at like mile 14.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. So
that's
I started
like the bottom, I think, or when you're coming out, right?
Yeah. Oh, going down I think you take a left and you start the energy lab portion at mile 14.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
And then I did the math and I was like, okay, I was on the Queen K for X miles. So I'll get out of the energy lab around mile 19-ish, 20-ish.
Yeah, it's almost 20. Yeah.
Yeah. And, so I was like, okay, so it's another 6 miles of it. So it was 6 miles on the Queen K. Like, that's so long.
Yeah.
And man, it's just on and on and on and straight. And the only time I've had another straight course was Boulder 70.3, where you like have that long 1 mile out and long 1 mile back. And that feels long. So I was like, oh God, this is going to feel long. But just trudged along. And I will say, seeing people coming off the bike, I was like, well, at least I'm done with the bike.
Yeah.
At least I'm 8 miles in.
No, it's crazy. People are out there, and even the people that are going to go 11, 12 hours, you're out there cheering for them on the Queen K, and people are still coming in on the bike, and you're like, oh my God, they're not going to start the run till 5:30.
Oh, I saw people starting the run as I'm coming back, and I get it's also staggered start, so like some people are just starting much later, and that's what I told myself anytime I got blown by a girl in a different age group. I'm like, she's just a girl that there's a pattern, it's fine. But yeah, it just it's a wild day.
So any points, like, it sounds like the bike went great, the run went great, maybe that stretch on Queen K obviously was a little bit of a mind bender, saying it's a long stretch. Anything else? It doesn't sound like you had any lows during the race. It sounds like it was all pretty positive.
I had a little GI distress in the energy lab, and I did see a girl that had an accident in her kit, and I was like, don't be that girl. I don't want to be that girl, but I wasn't, and it passed. But I was
that'll make the recovery week that much harder.
Yes. So I was like, and I was running right behind that girl, and I was like, oh, I smell something funny, and I was like, oh goodness. Pass her. But she had that girl was going great. She was going. It just clearly she trusted a toot that she shouldn't have. So, but other than that, I'll say mile 20 to 21 felt like at least 3 miles. Yeah. You know how when you're like, don't check the watch, just keep it going. I was like, okay, I'm still feeling great. I passed mile 20 a while ago. I certainly have to be almost 21, 20.33. And I was like, oh my God.
You look at your watch and you've only gone 3 minutes and you're like, oh my God.
I'm like, don't even look at that again.
Right.
But I just kept checking my pace, and it was just steady. And even walking through the aid stations, it was steady. And as soon as I hit like mile 23, still feeling so good, I was like, oh my God. And I picked up the pace. I started going faster. My last mile was like an 8-minute mile. It's downhill.
Wow.
And it's a Lee, right?
Yeah, that's okay though. It's great.
It made me wonder like, oh, could I have pushed more? But when you feel that good, it's just like.
Well, it felt good because you paced it correctly, right? Like you trained properly, you paced the bike correctly. The nutrition was there. The salt was there. I mean, everything just kind of, you had the day. Yeah. You had the day.
And thank God it was in Kona. Like it's still mind-boggling because so much can go wrong completely out of your control. And I mean, getting a flat on the Queen K, and I didn't know how to change a flat tire. That was one of the year's goals. So it was cool to accomplish that, but certainly made me worried during the race. And I saw girls get flats, and I met a girl at the airport that was like, I got 2 flats on that ride, and I don't know what lesson life was teaching me, but hopefully I'll figure it out. And I was like, oh, you just can't. Things you can't control. That's right.
So, where did you see Isaac and Chloe on the course? Like,
so I saw both of them on the bike going up Palani.
Yep.
So going out to the Queen K.
Yep.
Chloe was down for her nap because, nap schedule is very important.
That's a good dad to do that.
She was down for her nap when I came back in and started the run. But I saw Isaac. We had friends and family there helping with Chloe. So
cool.
And she was back on the course with a cowbell for the run. And I don't think they were on the run course while I was out. So I don't think I saw them again until the finish. Every time I saw her, she was crying. To be clear, it was not easy because she wanted to follow me and be with me. Where's mom?
Of course.
But I knew that would happen because we've spectated Isaac racing this year, Chloe and I, and she doesn't do well with that yet, but she doesn't get it.
Yeah, she'll get it. It's just a little separation anxiety going on, but it'll.
In the local races, she tries to run onto course and do the run. Yeah. So, so I saw them at the finish, and then as soon as I finished, and I'll talk more about that probably too, but I immediately, I didn't take my finisher picture, which was I can't believe I didn't. I grabbed pizza, immediately exited so I could go see her because I knew she had to go down for bedtime. And we had contingency plans around okay, however the day goes, how late do we keep up Chloe so that I can see her at the finish?
Right.
Because I wanted pictures and memories and all of that.
Enjoy it with her, sure.
Yeah, but I finished so much sooner than we thought. It wasn't even an issue. I got to hang out with her for a while.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That is awesome.
It was great.
So you've been working with Coach Brad for a while. How long has it been?
I started working with Brad in 2019. I started with D3 in 2017.
Yep.
When it's so funny. Life is so chanceful. I just randomly bought a training plan.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be yours.
Right.
But I started working with Brad in 2019.
Awesome. So give me, and I actually talked to Brad this week quite a bit, and he's renowned for covering all the bases, right? He's really good about course prep. He's great about, making sure you're getting some strength in, making sure you're hitting the watts, you're running the paces in the pool. For you're a good swimmer. Maybe that's not an issue. But I admire the fact that I think he's really good with the mental side of things for his athletes. And I'm always trying to learn from him. Just give me something maybe he gave you on race day that you were able to take with you and think about, and when it got hard or.
It's a great question. We do race visualization in the week leading up, and I'm sure maybe lots of people do that. But it's even as simple as the smells and the sounds and things like that, and really setting aside the time to do that. I'll say one funny thing that during the race, as you were going down Hawaii, you could smell cows. And I laughed because I was like, well, that wasn't a smell I visualized or practiced in my, it was so stinky. But I just think that we're constantly working on the mental toughness and the strength and pushing through. And it's like a muscle you're always practicing. And I think that's kind of what does it. Yeah. Every time there's a key workout, and I think Brad knows I get kind of freaked out by testing. And when there's really hard workouts, sometimes I get a little intimidated. And always in there, it's really zone in, focus on pushing through, focus on those intervals and really give it your best. And I think giving that extra focus on those days where it matters really helps. Otherwise, I don't know. I think what's so great about what I was thinking about this before this interview, of course, what's been so great about Brad is he kind of meets you where you're at and then makes it work around you and who you are as a person. Because I think what works for me is different than what works for someone else. And for me, it's I don't know, I have a life. Training is part of who I am, but it's not all of who I am. And we're constantly flexing around what's going to work for my schedule and my life and the kind of mental state I'm in. So yeah, I don't know.
Right. That's great. I think,
we practice a lot.
Coaching obviously is a lot about the communication, the relationship with the athlete. But you're right. The coach has to meet you halfway and say, okay, you only have 8 hours this week because you're traveling or your daughter's got something at school, or your husband's got a big event, whatever it is. Yeah. And you have to be adaptable and realize that, those 8 hours this week are just as important as the 12 the next week, right? Yep. And maybe it's condensed, or maybe it's not that you don't get the long run in, but you got everything else in. And it's the trust in the process. It's all that stuff, right?
I think just the trust in general. Yep. I trust that Brad knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. I trust that he's looking at my data and knows how my body's doing. And he adapts things based on that. And then, I don't know. I really trust him inherently. I have one meltdown every Ironman lead in. And
we all do.
even in that email, literally it happened. And I was I knew this was coming. This always happens. I'm freaking out. But even in that email, I'm I know that we've done the work. I know that we've done all the right things. I trust that we can do that. I can accomplish this based on all that we've done. Yeah. So the trust, I think, being mutual is really helpful.
Awesome. So just real quick, give me a little background on your background, athletically.
I played competitive soccer growing up.
Okay.
I tore my ACL when I was 17.
Oh.
And because of that, had a lot of free time and decided to become a lifeguard. I'll say I swam growing up.
Uh-huh.
I did summer swim team in like middle school, and lifeguarding and swimming, and that kind of got me through that injury, and then was a job for me for quite a while. But other than that, just soccer, swimming.
Did you go back to soccer after the ACL injury?
No,
wow.
I was so burnt out. When I tore my ACL, I was relieved. I told this story just the other day. I was like, oh my God, thank God. I was playing on 2 teams, high school and
club
and travel. Yeah. So yeah.
That's rough. And then, so when did you discover triathlon? How old were you?
Yeah, I want to say 25.
So you were
I
young.
had been running. I picked up running in college just for fun.
Just
on
for
a
something
treadmill.
to do, activity.
Yes, on a treadmill, something to counteract the partying, honestly. And I started doing half marathons. I did a couple marathons, and my friend who I was lifeguarding with at the time did his first Ironman. And literally my story starts with Ironman. That was my first triathlon I ever signed up for. He did his first Ironman. He's a great swimmer, but he had never done a marathon before, and I'd already done a marathon. So certainly if he could do it, I could do it.
You have a huge advantage.
Right? So I signed up for that. And literally, Isaac was like, okay, well, you shouldn't ride the bike by yourself, and let's buy bikes. And so I guess I'll do it too. And then my sister signed up, and we signed up for Ironman Canada, which was 2015, in 2014. And then we did our first sprint type Olympic race.
So Penticton was your first Ironman?
It was Whistler then.
Whistler, right. Okay.
It was the year it rained in Whistler.
Okay.
And it was pretty terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we ended up doing a couple of local stuff that summer to start learning. But if I had any idea how like integral the bike was in Ironman, I probably would have thought twice about just being like, yeah, I'm going to do an Ironman. Why not? Sounds easy.
It's funny, during the race, they were, talking about Taylor Knibb a lot and how ignorance is bliss. And it sounds like that was you. And obviously it didn't turn you off to it, right? Like you kept going with it.
Oh no, we were hooked. It was a lifestyle at that point. I'll tell you, Isaac ran his whole first Ironman marathon. So he was in. He was like, I'm great at this. And it took me 15 hours and 45 minutes.
Yep.
My sister and I walked many miles of the marathon together. And it was just all about finishing. It was like beat the cutoffs. I think my bike was like 8 hours, some minutes. It was just insane. But it was
especially being a good swimmer, I'm sure you're, closer to the front, and then all these people go by you on the bike, and then you're walking. Right?
I was just so scared the whole bike. That year, like a bunch of the pros pulled out because it was so cold, but I didn't know any better.
But that was the course that had like a ton of elevation too.
Oh my, so much.
All the climbing, right?
Yeah. But again, ignorance is bliss. That's just what Ironman is. It's raining. That's what you do.
Yeah, you think it's all this hard and this terrible. And in your head, you're like, I'm going to tell everybody I got through this. It's, this is brutal, and they can't do it because I'm so tough, right?
We were very proud. That was my sister's only Ironman. She'll never do another. But yeah, it was epic.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So, well, okay, this has been fantastic. What, let's say you're talking to somebody who's getting into the sport. Maybe you would suggest they do an Ironman right away. I'm not sure. What advice would you give somebody just starting out and, just to kind of get them on the right track?
Oh gosh. First, I'll always ask more questions like, oh, do you know how to swim? Do you ride a bike ever? I think lean into what scares you and do it. And I think that if you're not like uncomfortable, you're not growing. And so anything that's guiding you in those ways, go for it. I think anyone can do a sprint triathlon if you have the physical means or some way to do that. I think it's totally doable for anyone, and anyone can train for that. So everybody that's like, oh, I thought about doing a triathlon, like, don't even tell me that. Now I'm hooked on it, and I will not leave you alone about it. But just lean into whatever distance scares you. Like full Ironman distance is the only thing that scares me anymore. I love halves. I think I'm getting really good at them, and I'm excited next year to focus on them. But Ironman scares the PBGB out of me. I'm trying not to swear. And I enjoy that. I love it. Yeah. And I think, I don't know, there's so much in our lives we can't control, and training and being diligent and making minor accomplishments and things you can control is really cool.
Yeah.
And it like makes me a better person throughout my life. And so I think triathlon's just like, I think everyone should do triathlon. But the swimming, I feel like I always hear people are so scared to swim.
Right.
So
Right. I think,
say
well,
get
you
a
have a
swim
huge
coach.
advantage being a swimmer with a swim background, but I think that's great advice. I mean, lean into things that are hard because a lot of times we avoid it, right? And
Yep.
that's where we kind of deteriorate as a people and as a society, and everything's instant gratification. And, it's every week you need to do something hard, whether it's a hard set in the
100%.
gym, lifting weights, it's a hard interval session, like you're talking about testing. I have athletes who hate testing, so I
Brad
have to,
no longer calls it a test for me.
I
That's
trick
in
them
the
into it. I'm like, it's, we're doing 5 times 8 at threshold with 2-minute rest.
all
Like
out, just all out, go.
all out.
I think if you're not failing too, sometimes you're not really pushing it. And I have to tell myself that every time I fail and panic about it.
It's amazing how I have to convince athletes it's okay to fail. Like, if you give them a set, like let's say they're fast and they can do, hundreds on 130, and we go, okay, let's do the first 2 on 125. Like, I'm barely going to make them. I'm like, that's okay. And if you don't make them, guess what? That's okay too. Like, let's make 1 this week. We'll make 2 next week, right? Like just that small incremental progress. And, but pushing yourself to the point where, things are tough and you have to mentally and physically engage to, reach that goal. So that's
100%.
awesome. I love that. Lean into it. I love that's an awesome answer. Let's see what else. So what else? What's up for the rest of the year? Just kind of relax.
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
You're not doing a marathon or anything, right?
Not yet. Looking at the void ahead of the rest of this year, my next race on the calendar is Coeur d'Alene 70.3. We always do that one. Okay. Kind of local for us. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't have anything to do till June next year. Like, that's not okay. But I'll say we've got Coeur d'Alene 70.3, Oregon 70.3, the new Washington 70.3.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think that's going to be a good one. I think that's going to be really cool.
It looks like a really nice part of the country.
Yeah. And warm, but hopefully not too hot. We'll see. And then New Zealand. So that's New Zealand in December.
Yeah. So Worlds again.
Yeah. There's an art, I think, to not having too long of a season and burning out. Somehow I never burnt out this season. I never felt, maybe it's because I had Chloe and then last season was challenging.
Yeah, for sure.
And then this season was so fun because I felt good and my body felt good. But I'm thinking about a marathon. Someday I want to BQ.
Yeah. How far are you from it?
Oh, well, it depends. What's the actual time they're using?
Yeah.
This year I did a marathon just to try it out, and I did a 3:41, and a BQ for me would be a 3:35. Okay. And this course had a lot of elevation and gravel.
So you probably had to do like a 3:32 or something like that, right?
I think a 3:29. It was 5 minutes, and so it was way off. So I'm kind of like backing off from that. It's so weird to BQ and not have control of getting into the race.
Yeah, and you mentioned that about control, and I like that, that you're right. It's incremental things you can control. And even though, you put so much time into training and all the dedication to it and the discipline and all the particulars, like even just your race gear and making sure your zipper and your wetsuit works and like all this stuff, right? And you get out there in race day and you have so little control, right? Like that's something that it's just hard for us type A's to reconcile, right?
Yep. I had a friend who in Kona last year, I mean, he did slay. He did great, but somebody cut him off in an aid station and he crashed. He had a rough run because of the pain. And it's like, you can't control anyone around you for sure.
Right.
And let alone I always have some gear malfunction. Even the practice swim, I recorded as a run. It's just and I was at my watch. I had it on open water swim. I found myself. I was ready to go. I don't even know how that happened. Just weird stuff happens. My bike computer has died during races when it didn't make any sense. Just, so many things. And I think I expect those to happen. Like that's something that Brad definitely works with me on. Like there's going to be things that happen that you can't control. There's going to have things go wrong, and it's about problem solving your way out of those throughout the day.
Absolutely.
And not too much went wrong in Kona, thankfully.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a great day.
I mean, little things like I came with my ice sock and no one knew what I wanted.
Right.
Put the ice in the sock. There's my 10 seconds missing my PR, but it's fine. It's fine.
It's me, Kalee. Help me out.
Duh. Actually, though, I'll say the volunteers were so incredible in Kona. Like they had so many kids volunteering, which one, it was so hot. But two, the kids were having fun. Like I came upon one group of kids that were all holding cups of water, and they would celebrate who got picked by the person. The fourth kid got picked, yeah, Johnny, it was Johnny. And it was just such a good vibe.
My 17th person I've helped.
Yeah, exactly. It was so much fun. And they were just so, I don't know, they took it so seriously and did such a great job. It was the best volunteers I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, world-class, race, world-class volunteers, that's what it takes.
And Hawaii. I
Yep.
mean, they were very gracious. And I know that last year was kind of an interesting year for the island. And I don't think it was very not positive maybe for some people.
Right.
And I talked to some locals leading into the race, and they were like, this year, they were saying like, it already feels better. It's not as crazy. Like, people are being very gracious and kind. And so that was really good.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we really respectful of the island. I want to come back here someday.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking with us. It was a great conversation, and I pulled so many great nuggets from this, and I learned a lot. So that's always fun for me too.
Thank you.
So
Well,
thank you for the time.
Thanks for D3. Thanks
yeah,
for Brad. I mean, you paired me with Brad, and it's been great. So I appreciate it.
That's great to hear. He's an amazing coach, and it takes an amazing athlete to work with an amazing coach to get an amazing result. So
yep.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
You did all. I tell my athletes all the time, and I'm sure Brad would say the same thing. You do the heavy lifting, right? Like, we lay it out, but you have to do the work, and that's the big part of it. So, thanks for talking.
Of course.
All right.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Trust the Process. If you have a question on anything related to triathlon, please send me an email at mike@d3multisport.com. We'd love to hear from you. Make it a great day.